Captain's Log, episode 55. This week's episode of the Beer Vengers podcast is sponsored by the Beer and Cheese Collective, formerly known as Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens. Winter hours are Wednesday through Sunday, but they're making those 5 days count with events like Wednesday Night Chess Club and Thursday Night Trivia. Check out their Instagram page for more details. Enjoy the eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at the Beer and Cheese Collective. New name, same great place. This week, Beer Wonder joins the captain for another in our series of day drinking escapades. We enjoy a couple of great beers, indulge in some guarded optimism about the immediate future, briefly discuss Wordle strategy, and try not to be too smug about how empathetic and evolved Beer Vengers can be. Remember to like, star, and subscribe whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you'd just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 55, Kumbaya and all that bullshit.
Well, we're the Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers.
We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brownstout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder!
And we are... Beer
We made it work that time.
Yeah, we certainly did. That's right. We are the Beer Vengers. You're the Beer Vengers. Welcome, anyone and all from all the various states, countries, parts unknown, and if you're listening to this from an extraterrestrial spacecraft,
aliens.
Yeah, we come in peace. And have a beer with us,
please.
Welcome. It's been a couple weeks. It's the world seems to be, knock on whatever the surface you have present. Things seem to be looking up a little bit.
Yes, certainly in Gotham, they seem to be getting better. Our numbers are looking significantly more like they used to.
Yeah. It's been consistently on the downward slope, which is some very good news. We got that. We have some of our various weeks in beers coming up. How aside from enjoying reading the numbers in the New York Times every day, how's your last couple of weeks been, Beer Wonder?
Good. I'll be honest. I am on a Wordle streak.
Oh,
so yes,
I actually broke mine last week.
Oh no! Okay, what was the word that got you?
It was. I was gonna say, oh fuck, but it wasn't fuck because that's only 4 letters.
Yeah.
It was. Well, I'll tell you what it was. Every time I screw up, it's a strategy based thing. If I go away from my strategy at all. It basically, I had 2 letters that were in the wrong place, and I didn't shift them around enough, which is the one thing that I had a 25-day streak going, and I expect to surpass that with my next one. But before but all of those things aside,
exactly.
We could talk about Wordle all day because everyone seems to all the time right now. But yes. Even if we do spend an inordinate amount of time talking about Wordle, it will be much better if we do it over a beer, won't it?
Yes, and we should mention that this is day drinking with.
This is a day drinking episode. Yes, so, it's about 2:00 in the afternoon here. If you're listening to this in the morning on your way to work, if you're listening to it during a happy hour, just time travel with us to 2 p.m. on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's have some beers. And Captain, after last week's or last attempt, last time we were together, there was a little bit of reminders of rule. I want.
Oh boy, it's I don't know where my head's been.
I know. I want to step back and just let you really take the reins today as our very first pour.
Oh, you want me to do the first pour?
Yes.
Oh, that's fair. That's very sporting of you, as always, Beer Wonder. Well, of course, my My very first pour today just happened, or probably my only pour. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? But it's
Yes.
day drinking. The rules are off. But this is indeed a
Sponsored pour.
That's
What?
right. It's a sponsored pour from the Beer and Cheese Collective at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in
Gosh, we
lovely
like them.
Astoria, Queens. This is one we featured this brewery before. It's from Tripping Animals,
Mm.
and it is called Return of the Tripping Dead.
Ooh, look at that can art.
It's really beautiful, isn't it?
Very
It's
beautiful.
honestly, they have really good beer, but I had a couple of choices today, and I chose this one because I knew it would look good in our lovely Instagram feed.
Oh, always good. And if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure that you join us there at the Beer Vengers.
So this is a 6% ABV beer, fitting
Oh, okay.
for day drinking.
Just
It's a sour
breakfast
ale
for you, Captain.
Sure. You're not lying.
Mhm.
It's a sour ale with cherry, coconut, almonds, and vanilla.
Okay.
Very much looking forward to this one.
Very nice.
All right, here is my Beer and Cheese Collective tulip glass.
Gorgeous. Oh, nice. Good amber color on this one. Almost a little
Yeah.
reddish, which is really
I would say
beautiful.
definitely reddish. You see that cherry, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's got a really nice dense foam that's collecting up at the top. Good head retention. Gosh, that looks pretty. Oh, I'm going to be excited to hear how that one sounds, how that one tastes. Okay. All right. Well, to the shock of no one, Captain, I
Yes.
also have a
Sponsored pour.
A sponsored pour. There's two
Yes.
sponsored pours. I'm really. We haven't featured a sponsored pour from the Beer and Cheese Collective in a few weeks, so I'm glad we're catching up on all the wonderful things they give us on a regular basis.
Exactly. Well, this is from a brewery that is close to, I think, both of our hearts, as well as Huck's heart, if he's wandering out there.
Oh yeah.
This is from Hudson Valley Brewery, and we're going a little crazy because we're taking two trends and putting them into one. I'm having their Holocene Sour IPA with
Sour IPA.
mango and vanilla.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
I know. It also has lactose in it. So there are many things happening in this beer, and I am excited and intrigued to try it out. But also, I just want to also, with that can art here, look at that. How beautiful is that, right? All those oranges and those mountain
Yeah.
peaks that are happening. It's a great one. Make sure you check that one out on the gram because I'm a huge fan of these guys here. So let's take a quick look at this guy.
Beautiful sound there. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very bright colored.
Very orange, also pretty hazy, which is where I'm sure all that lactose is coming in. And even this far away from my face, I can already smell the mango. So,
Oh, yeah. Very good.
very exciting.
All right. Well,
continuing my exploration of sours. So,
cheers.
well, cheers, Captain.
That's really good.
Ooh. This one, they weren't kidding when they said sour. It's hitting me right in the back there. I definitely get some of the hop characteristic on it pretty intensely. This one has a little bit of mosaic in it, a little bit of. Well, I can definitely taste the mosaic. I'm sure there's other ones in there, but that's there. But the lactose, the sour, the mango puree just hits in the back of the throat, and it does feel like it's got a little bit more heft to it. And so I do believe that they use oats in this one along with all the other things that they're doing to give it sort of a richness and body. So yeah, it does kind of have this like mango coated with vanilla, flavored with hops on an oat cracker kind of vibe.
Yeah,
and
this
also
one definitely
sour is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, this one also I would say that the sour cherry is that's the thing that hits you right away. But then as you hold it in your mouth and especially with the finish, that's when you really started to notice that. I mean, it says coconut and almonds. So far, I'm noticing the almonds a little bit more than the coconut.
Yep.
But those two do have kind of a similar flavor profile.
Right.
And of course the vanilla is there a little bit. So it's again with that sour cherry being so dominant, it takes a bit to point this out. And I'm looking very much forward to having this entire beer and sussing out all those subtleties.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that both of us have a really intense sour flavor with our beers as well as vanilla in there this week. For me, the vanilla is my aftertaste. It is a lingering flavor that tends to show up at the very end. for me. It really is all mango and all sour on the initial sip, and then the vanilla just kind of shows up.
Oh, very good.
Mm.
Yeah, I know we featured tripping animals a
Mhm.
few times previously, at least once.
Mhm.
I don't know. See, this is. Why do I keep these records if I won't go and look at them?
Exactly.
I know I have. But I definitely. It might have even been our very first Florida beer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
And always happy to return to them because, yeah, it's nice to see them around. It's, I mean, we don't get a lot of Florida beers, I don't think.
No, I don't feel like they don't quite come up this way quite as much. I mean, beer
There's
being so
them. There's
regional.
Cigar
Yeah.
City.
Hmm. You have to get big enough to have some sort of national distribution, I imagine, if you're getting all the way from Florida up to New York. But that said, I can't see why we wouldn't be a good market. There's so many New Yorkers that go to Florida, and so many Floridians who I assume then come back to New York that maybe they might want some beers from home.
I guess it really always comes down to that whole notion of how big something actually has to be,
Right.
even to get over the lines of a few counties.
Right. Yep. Yep. How much? How much? And if you're making enough money and you can pay for distribution and you can pay to have
Yeah.
someone manage that for you, because I can't imagine unless there's some amazing brewer who just wants to find a reason to take a road trip to New York City, they might probably need someone else to ship it up for us.
True,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I guess I want. I don't know if this brewery has expanse beyond just this sort of the East Coast,
Hmm.
because I guess Florida and New York are both the East Coast, aren't we?
That is true. It's very
Even though we
accurate.
think of Florida as the South, it is
Yes.
literally on the East Coast of the country.
So then the real test is have they made it to like Washington State? Because then we have done a full like cross country maneuver from south to north, from east to west.
That would be impressive. Honestly, I would be surprised if there's anyone that doesn't have some sort of toe in the whole conglomerate water to be able to make it from Washington to Florida and back again.
I'm sure. I feel like yeah, you have to have committed to this life if you're going to do that. So,
So
but
how's that now? Hudson Valley? I know we've had them a few times before, haven't we?
yes, so they're a pretty creative brewery. They're based out of Beacon, New York, which is very, hip. And back in the early days of us doing this podcast, I knew Hudson Valley was always one that Huck was excited about because they are
Hmm.
notably very good at sours. So they have hopped into the sour IPA trend of late. And actually, if you currently are looking to order from them, you can get all kinds of different kind of combinations of sour IPAs. They've got a couple different 4 packs, and they continue to experiment with that. So they are relatively local to us. Although for a time, especially mid-pandemic or before the pandemic, it was kind of hard to get their stuff. It was really meant
Sure.
as a destination brewery. So you would go up to Beacon, you'd have a lovely day, you'd go to the art museums there and the historic sites, have a beer, pick up some brews, and bring them back with you. So it is nice to see that one of the positives that have come out in addition to the beer shipping is that we're now seeing additional distribution from these guys. And I'm curious, I don't know if anyone has found out about this, but we're not shipping beer like we used to in New York State, unfortunately,
No.
anymore. But I'm curious if that sort of easy distribution, self distribution that happened has caused any of these breweries to have enough money and to have enough following in different parts of the state that they might be interested in potentially, paying a little bit more or getting involved with more distributors, in the same way that now we're seeing more Hudson Valley in the city and we're seeing other New York State breweries that might have not been here coming down and joining us in the 5 boroughs, simply because they probably gained a following while we were all stuck at home drinking beer.
We've been hearing a lot of stories about how they're trying to finalize not only outdoor dining stuff
Yep.
as well as the drinks to go thing,
Hmm.
and sort of make that legal. I haven't heard a lot if they're doing much with letting the beer company self distribute in that way as much.
Yeah, my
I,
understanding is that was done away with. That was
well, I know
stopped.
it's been
Yeah.
done away with, although I feel like I don't know. I don't. I'm.
Yeah.
This is something we need to sit down. We need to have Dave Lopez back on the show
Yes, for
and
sure.
find, because I feel like that there are some places who are still advertising you can order beer from us.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if they're all using a third party or what's going on there. Because remember when we had him on for Curtain Up, he was
Right.
saying he can't do it anymore. But I'm wondering what his obstacle if I'm also seeing other breweries that are doing it.
Right. Well, it may be state law. It also might, I mean, frankly, be, Gun Hill's a pretty small shop relative to
Yeah,
some of the other folks. I mean, I even look at something like Five Boroughs, who was shipping beer, and they're a pretty big shop. They're meant to be a production brewery. They've
and they're
got a
not able
pretty
to do it anymore.
well. They're not doing it anymore. Also, they were sort of like hesitantly doing it because
Okay.
they were packing it all themselves, and so they were shipping it, and you could absolutely get it delivered, but like they were also trying to sell merch, and all they done was buy huge boxes to ship beer, and the shipping cost was pretty high. And like if you wanted a t-shirt, it was like $12 to ship it because the box was so heavy,
Wow.
because they didn't really want to be in the shipping, you know in the shipping business. It was just what they had to do in order to really
Sure.
maintain their stability during this time. So I know that they've gone back to more distribution. Their tap room is open. They've sort of gone back to the way that things were a little bit more, where, if and they're a big enough shop that they could easily have shipped. I would imagine Gun Hill, being a smaller brewery, might not want to put that many resources to packing boxes all day long, unless they have to. You know.
It will be interesting to see when all the dust settles, how powerful the various lobbies are,
Hmm.
how we may be able to adjust and shift, and because obviously there are some things like I understand why we need to have more rules about how outdoor dining happens,
Right.
but the idea of helping small business people and removing the middleman, I aside from the fact that it hurts companies that have moneyed lobbies out there,
Right.
I, I I can see why those people are concerned with someone getting a piece of their pie, but they've
Right.
got a pretty big pie.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of outdoor dining, I know you and I have had sort of differences of opinions on this, a little bit, sort of in the early days, but it looks like it's trying to become formalized. And now that we've done this for over a year, and we've seen these shacks go up and things like that, what is your take, sort of, on New York continuing outdoor dining?
So first of all, I just because in case we have any new listeners who think that we've been at each other's throats, we
Oh
haven't
no,
been. What
no,
what
not at
what
all.
differences of opinion specifically are you referring to?
I think that I had been initially, early on, I had been more flexible and liberal with the idea of like being on the street and taking up space, and you had been preferring outdoor dining being like a slightly more enclosed and enjoyable environment,
Well,
where neither of us
and to,
disagree that it's a good thing, or
right.
sorry, neither of us disagree that it's a bad thing. It's just that the way that it was being put together, I was more in pro, like, just throw up a
You
tent
just
and
wanted
let's
to be
call it a
Wild
day.
West, yeah, and I think that's all. But I do think that's a good way to start.
Yes, exactly.
And I was any of my things that I said against
Mm,
dining on the street was more about a personal preference and
right,
not about whether or not it should exist.
right. Oh no,
I was
I
just mostly talking about what my comfort level was.
Right. Yeah, there's no animosity between the captain and I. It's simply
No,
just
no,
we were
no.
looking at what the experience of that was.
Yeah,
And it does seem, I mean, in what I've observed, it has, with the exception of our friends at Pony Bar, who we were drinking there a few weeks ago, and they were putting barrels outside with, which
yeah.
was lovely.
They seem
It
to
looked
have they have, and they haven't taken down the stables. That it's hard for the two people running the bar to maintain that.
exactly, and I think part of it is there isn't that much outdoor drinking happening right now, and also it's cold, so.
Again, if we have any new listeners, the stables is what the Pony calls their outdoor street dining
Mhm.
thing. They have a big thing that's set up, but since not many people are eating outside or drinking outside, they're either choosing to go inside or stay home.
Right.
They don't have the demand for a huge amount, so that's why they have a couple of barrels in front
Right.
right now.
It's also cold. Let's just remember that.
There is that, yes.
So,
Um, but it's like just the fact that those things exist doesn't mean that they have the staff to maintain them
oh no,
as
yes,
far as service goes.
right.
Uh,
And I will
but
say this: the staff at Pony, with the times that we've been there, I had been a little bit more cautious about eating or drinking indoors, especially at the height of all of this. And so when Captain and I met up, I insisted that we enjoy a beverage outside, and the staff
and
was
I
fantastic.
happily
Yeah,
complied.
of course, absolutely. But the staff was great. They came out, they said hi to us. We had ordered some food, they brought it right to us. They helped us
Yeah,
with our beers. They were really excellent, as always.
yeah. I think I do think it's good that the whole idea that everyone can have their own outdoor space uh, was able to happen. So now we can have a discussion of how much of that is good
Right.
and how much compensation. Because really, I I mean, I pay rent
Yep.
in my apartment,
Mhm.
but that doesn't allow me the right to like sleep out on my sidewalk
Right,
or
exactly.
to put a whole temporary space there to add to the floor space. And if we're able to do that, I should probably be charged something extra by the city for that. So I think that on those lines, uh, going forward, we do need to have some sort of permits that are happening
Yeah.
there,
Oh,
and opening the door for that, like because there are some of these places that are I think are I look. I know that we're very pro small business here.
mhm.
We always support for it. We understand why people had to do everything they could just to stay alive. But going forward, I think we need to take a second look at some of these places where their outdoor seating area is like 5 times the size of their indoor seating
Right.
area.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Most definitely. I mean, and I think the other thing that I'm hearing is sort of equitable use of public space tends to be the argument that people are
Yeah.
making. And the anti outdoor dining basically keeps saying, well, what about the parking spots? And I'm fully with you. I'm fully with you in that technically, okay, if I have a parking spot, in theory the city is making revenue off of the tickets that I get, because if you drive in New York City, I'm sure you get a million tickets. But at the same time, so yes, we should charge people for the space that they're taking up in the street. That said, it is a little surprising to me that you, Captain, as a, so I live in a very heavily built up area. The street right in front of where I am does not have any free parking. You cannot park
Okay.
near where I live. I gather, Captain, you could park in front. If you had a car, you could probably park in front of your house. Yes.
Yes, and I would have to move it for the period of an hour and a half a week.
Right, exactly. That is sort of then kind of technically included in your rent, right? That's a free
Yeah, I
perk.
guess you could say that. Sure.
Exactly. But it is like that's a really expensive perk. You know what I mean? From
Right.
like a from a so I don't mind the idea of taking up some parking spaces, incentivizing people to have fewer cars and giving that space back to small businesses
Sure.
and looking at the way that they're doing. I just do feel that it is time to say, okay, if you want to have this space, you should contribute a little bit towards the revenue for the city. And I don't think it needs to be much, but I like the idea of that back and forth happening now that we're in this space.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like it's there's a place there's like a coffee place around the corner from me. I
Hmm.
think they do like little sandwiches and muffins and stuff. But
Yeah.
I imagine most of their business was takeaway before any of this ever happened.
Yep.
And it's insane how much street space they get.
Right.
And I don't usually don't see a lot of people sitting there either. So if
Right.
I were someone who had a car, I would probably. I'm mostly amused by it now, but if I were driving around blocks and blocks around in my neighborhood looking for a parking space, I can see how that would probably annoy me.
Yeah. That idea of ratio of seating indoor to outdoor does seem like it's a good way to start thinking about
Yeah.
things. Um, and then, we've got wonderful places like, the Beer and Cheese Collective, which has a beautiful backyard that
And
is,
also, I should say,
wonderful.
now that I'm saying it, I think my sleeping on the sidewalk is probably a terrible analogy, but
Yeah,
there must be a better analogy of like, if I wanted to extend, like if you wanted to use that as storage space, but that
right.
would be a
If you
bad
wanted
analogy
to
as well
build
because
a
people would just
shed,
steal my stuff.
if you wanted to build a shed in your parking spot, that wouldn't
There
be
you
legal.
go.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you have the right to put a car there.
Sure.
But anyone in New York
Temporarily.
City
Yeah.
temporarily, right? Anyone has the right to put a car there. But the real, sure, you're using that space for free, assuming you can move it once a week,
Hmm.
and assuming you can keep that spot. But also, you're gonna pay tickets on it, so the city is technically losing some revenue. So
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with disincentivizing cars and still keeping that revenue a little bit and
Yeah.
allowing small businesses to keep going. The question now, the car lobby is going to come for us.
They are.
So,
Those
but
Staten
then again,
Islanders. Actually,
exactly.
I think the Staten Islanders we
Oh,
who
they
have a
already hate us.
complicated relationship
Yeah,
with.
yeah. Now,
By
Joe.
the way,
Well, my
did you
buddy
read the
Joe
latest?
Borelli. My buddy Joe Borelli just got minority leader in the city council. So, cheers to you, buddy.
Oh, is he a Democrat?
He's a Trump Republican.
Oh, he
Um,
is. Oh, when you I see you
he's
you used my
my, my,
buddy
my buddy. Yeah,
quotes around it. Yeah, people you can't. People can. I
no,
should. I should. We should.
I went off on him in an earlier podcast.
Oh, okay.
So yes.
It just sounds like such a generic Italian Staten Island name. It just went over my head. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, have you heard the latest COVID related news in Staten Island?
Oh no.
Apparently, the first place where they have officially diagnosed some deer with
Oh, right.
Omicron.
I did hear that. Yes, that the deer are now coming for our gig.
Well,
Uh,
and where were they more likely to be coming from but
of
Staten Island?
course, of course. Well, I mean, I don't know. Have you seen
The
deer
most
in
infectious borough.
right? Have you seen deer in Queens? I have seen them in Brooklyn actually, but then again, we have we we've got Prospect Park. I'm sure Queens has huge parks too, so you might have them there. But I certainly
I
haven't
mean,
seen.
not in my neighborhood, but I'm sure
Yeah,
there are some parts of Queens that might
yeah.
have some of that. Um, yeah, probably the Staten Island think they're came over from Jersey or something.
Of course, of course. Well, that's where all things come from, apparently. That
But
said,
yeah,
that said.
ticks and viruses.
Mhm.
That's what you get when you have when you have a place with deer.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, speaking though of things to go, in addition, we are starting to hear more rumblings about to-go beverages being
Yeah,
part of New York City's experience. And I believe both you and I partook in that when it was legal for a while, then it went away, and now our new governor has encouraged people or is working to potentially bring it back. And it looks like there's some movement that's starting to happen. Um,
right.
did you indulge in the to-go
I
cocktails,
did. I
to-go
did on
beverages?
occasion. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, like for instance, when the Beer and Cheese Collective, at the time still known as the Story Beer and Cheese Ditmars,
Hmm.
when they first opened, I don't think you could even. I'm not even sure their backyard was quite open yet, but they
Oh
were.
wow.
But at like the very first day they were open, I got a to go beer from there,
Oh nice.
and I did it. I think I did a couple of cocktails from a couple places like the.
Hmm.
I think I did that from the Thirsty Koala, the Australian restaurant over at Ditmars as well, and. Yeah, I think the people who are arguing against doing it, I think, are mostly disingenuous because they're really just the liquor store lobby.
Right. Exactly.
The only legitimate concern that I can see, aside from we think you're making more money than we are, which is like
Right.
it sort of is anti-free enterprise.
Right.
Uh, the only legitimate concern is, and I don't think this is since people are able to gather in places more. I don't even see this
Hmm.
as a problem. But a lot of people were using it as an excuse to just drink on the street.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
supposed to be getting that to go to take to a place where it is legal to consume that.
Right. Exactly.
And I think part of the reason people were just doing it to hang out in front of the place and drink is because weren't getting much of that at that
Yeah,
point.
we wanted to gather. We were,
And said,
absolutely
okay,
looking
I
at
have
gathering.
this in my hand. I'm just going to drink it right here if I can't drink it in the store.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever circumstance, I think there need to be specific regulation and enforcement of regulations of that not happening.
Hmm.
Um, but that seems to be the only downside to having to go beverages.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Although, I'm curious if to-go beverages could be a first stepping stone into loosening some of the open container laws a little bit, because I certainly see the need to not have people just getting trashed on the street,
Yeah.
but I would, I think many of us have been in parks with beverages before.
Oh, sure.
Certainly don't know who they are. Couldn't admit to
No.
myself doing that, of course.
There's
But
definitely not pictures on our website of us doing that.
no, absolutely not. And I, certainly did not actually get to go cocktails and then go to parks with people here in Brooklyn
Oh,
at the
no.
height of everything. That certainly didn't happen. But there was a nice opportunity. And as we're sort of embracing being outside with
Yeah.
drinks, I'm curious as to see if this might be an initial stepping stone to allowing New York a little bit more flexibility in that way. What's
Yeah.
your take on something like that?
I think a start for that would be to target the pedestrian plazas,
Mm,
because there are a lot of neighborhoods that have at least either permanent or temporary where it's pedestrian only.
right.
And the reason I thought of that one is because when I was in Dayton,
Hmm.
uh, when we're going through the Oregon district, they sort of have a situation there. There's a zone of the Oregon district that's mostly pedestrian, and they have open containers are fine within that area if you're along that
Right.
strip. You could get,
Right.
they even have like picnic tables and stuff, but you can just walk with your beer there or your cocktail or whatever. You get it in a to go cup. You can walk through there. If you go over the border of that, then you're in violation. But as long as you're in that general area, you're fine. And I think that would be a way to start doing that. Just have zones
Yeah.
where that's okay.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and again, supporting small businesses who may not have the infrastructure to take up 12 parking spots in front of their building, even though they're mostly a takeout location.
Yeah.
They could, if they're near a pedestrian area, that's a great solution. That could be,
A-
again, another opportunity to
And
keep
and,
things
and
running.
also, if you do it in places where you have the it's pedestrian only, then there's less concern about people just gathering it in front of specific stores, and
Yep.
and they have lots of options to hang out and have their drink and enjoy it and
Yeah.
not bother anyone.
I know. I'm a huge fan. I wish that these warring lobbies would realize that honestly, if I'm going to get a bottle of wine or a thing of tequila or whatever, I'm probably drinking that at home. But if I
Yeah.
am getting tacos somewhere and they're, and I want to have a margarita with it, I'm not gonna. I'm not. I wouldn't be going to the liquor store to get tequila and triple second margarita mix to then go home and make the margarita to have with my tacos. Like that's not how this
Right.
works.
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly. So
So I'm curious. Have you had any interesting bar experiences lately? I know you've been very strict because of your various situations, your exposure rate of as far as always. If you're at a bar, you're hanging out outside. Are you still doing that?
yes, so I have been I have been trying to keep myself outside. I a lot of my work is in person and requires me to go into places. I also do work with some vulnerable populations in my life, and so out of sort of respect for that and caution for not wanting to be out of work or out of commission, even if I might not get super sick, I've been a little bit more cautious than many have in terms of being unmasked indoors. So I appreciate the captain's indulgence as we have met up and shivered as we drank our beers a little bit.
You
um,
know, honestly, to me, it's emblematic, and not to like pat myself on the back too
yeah,
much, both of ourselves on the back
yep,
too much. I think that we would all be getting along better in this country if we would just be tolerant of each other's comfort levels
right,
and
exactly.
not calling. I. I'm fine going inside, but
Mhm,
I'm perfectly comfortable. If you'd rather be outside, I'd be
yep,
outside with you. Just you hear all these stories about people like yelling at certain, not in New York so much,
yeah,
but like when someone's walking down the street wearing a mask and someone will call them an idiot or
right.
and all that kind of thing. It's just like it's just I think there is room for we can all live our own version of existence.
Yeah,
Kumbaya, all that bullshit.
yes, all that stuff. Well, but because I've been sort of more hesitant to be unmasked indoors, it has limited some of my drinking. However, for one of my Clark Kent jobs, I was down in Coney Island, and so just sort of wondering how things are down there because January and February in a summer beach town, not always the most exciting time to be there. And so I just wondered how our friends over at Coney Island Brewing were doing. So I finished my day at work and then I decided to walk down. And also, as like a bribe to myself to get myself to do some work I didn't want to do, I went and bought myself a beer because they have strong Wi Fi there. And I figured I could get some computing work done that I needed to do. And I was shocked. They were open and quite busy.
Mm,
Yep. Very intensely checking, you order inside. I then sat outside, but they were packed indoors. They were like actively checking vaccination just to set foot in the space. Even if I was going to
hmm
drink outside, they were checking vaccination statuses. They had music that was going. They had an art show that was happening there. They've added food, which I thought was exciting. And personally, one, I always enjoy their fall beers. I haven't really ever sampled any of their winter beers. I had their black lager, which was a really classic example of what the style should be, and was just kind of expertly done. It was just a lovely kind of like exactly what you want in a black lager. So I was pretty pleased with them on that one, and also just happy to see that people are taking advantage of the fact that you know even a brewery in a location that is not going to be quite as busy as it might be at a different time of year, people are still continuing to support that space. I imagine everyone's going a little stir crazy and probably wants to get out of the house on a Sunday, but nice to see people taking the time to be there. So that was my
cool.
biggest and like most distant adventure from my little humble abode here in the County of Kings.
Yeah, aside from occasionally stopping by our sponsor, the Beer and Cheese Collective, I've most of my beer related activities have been involved with movie going.
Ooh, okay. Ooh,
Well, this time of year,
movie going. Yeah. Oh,
as
right.
a
Now,
as a member of the SAG-AFTRA union,
right.
this time of year, I always try and do my due diligence as a SAG-AFTRA voter. If only I
Proud
were
of
this
you.
diligent when people were actually running for office in my organization, but
Well,
who can keep track of all of that? But I always try and
baby
see as many of
steps.
the movies and TV shows so I can nominate my fellow actors for
Mm.
things. And so we get to see a lot of these things for free. They send us DVDs. They give us, I can watch it on a couple of Roku channels.
Hmm.
But a few of them they'll have like private screenings or just give you movie cash where you
Oh,
can have like a voucher and go to a movie theater. So I've been doing that a
wow.
few times.
Well,
So
and if
last
I'm not
week, oh yeah,
mistaken, we just did get alcohol in all movie theaters in New York City. Is that right?
yes, I don't know if they're
Okay,
going to have to get individual licenses for that, but yes,
got it.
that is definitely something that is, yeah, not, and I guess Nighthawk didn't have enough of a lobby. Well,
Fair.
Nighthawk does, Alamo does.
Right,
I'm not sure who
exactly.
else has already been doing it. There are a few people who have been doing it.
The ones where you can eat food, I think you typically can get a beer. But exciting that your local AMC or Regal will also be able to supply you with a beverage.
But
That
since we're
said,
not
I'm a
quite
little
there yet,
terrified of how
this
much that costs.
well, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, a night at Alamo is not cheap, but very delightful nonetheless.
Right, exactly. But in spite of that,
But I mean, honestly, the best one was a couple of years ago when I went to see Fences at
oh,
Alamo, and I got there to find out that Paramount was footing the bill for whatever I wanted to order, so, which was pretty cool.
ooh,
Um, I,
well,
I would have not have had beers before I got there if I knew that was the case.
got it.
In any case, though, but the one I went to my local Kaufman Astoria
Mhm.
to see Licorice Pizza last week, and
Oh, nice.
afterwards I went to Sunswick 3535
Oh yeah, them.
at
They're a great little
35th
place.
Street and 35th Avenue, and was
Hmm.
having a few beers there. Had some fish and chips,
Okay.
and always enjoyed chatting with the bartenders there. I was talking to one. We were talking about various dark beers.
Hmm.
I think Finback came into the conversation, and I was mentioning their banana
Right.
BQE that we had at the gathering, and it was
Yes.
like it was just. They do wonderful job, but that one I thought went a little too heavy on the banana.
Sure. Sure.
And I was just talking about various ones, and he was talking about something about banana bread, and I found myself talking about Talia and their stout that had some bananas. And
Yep.
the reason I liked that one was because it tasted more like banana bread than bananas. And I started talking about Talia hot chocolate stout, and
Hmm.
then that genre was discussed. And so anyway, led to us talking about Chocovesa. And I said, "Yeah,
Oh
Chocovesa
yeah.
is pretty good." And this guy that just walked into the bar as he's taking a seat says, "Yeah, Chocovesa is all right." And it turns out he's a Stone rep.
Oh,
So
ouch.
no, he was deliberately downplaying it when he said Chocovesa is all
Okay,
right.
good. Okay, good. Good. Whew.
A gentleman by the name of Manny, who was the Stone. Yeah, no, I was speaking glowingly of Chocovesa.
Right, I know, of course. It's wonderful. I
Um,
was just a little surprised to hear someone downplay it like that.
yes, no, he was being funny.
Yeah.
And actually, at some point or another, he gave me a can of it to take home.
Oh, I love meeting beer reps in locations because
Yeah,
often
I
it
mean,
means you come
and
home with
honestly, I
something
would have been
fun.
happy with just that. He wound up giving me like, I think 4 different things. So,
Oh wow.
so he is now beer Ventures are now following Stone Manny from Stone on there. So thanks Manny
Nice.
for that.
Thank you,
That was
Manny.
nice. The other one was yesterday. I went to see the Cohen brother, not Cohen brothers,
Oh, just
the
one.
Cohen brother Macbeth.
Oh, right. Yes. Hmm.
I think it's Joel. Pretty
I
sure
don't
it's
remember.
Joel.
I know
It's
that
whichever one is married to Frances McDormand. This is literally the first ever Cohen brother movie.
okay.
Since the other ones have all been Cohen brothers.
Right, exactly. Hmm.
But it was good. Afterwards, I went to a place that I hadn't been in a while, and not specifically crafty, but just one of those old traditional Irish pubs that I when I used to do a couple different places. I did theater in Central Park, and I did
Mhm.
like a theater down in that area, and sort of wound up going there a lot. And as I was sitting waiting, thinking about what I was going to do after the movie, I realized, oh, Malachi's is right around the corner. And like I said, not especially crafty, but an amazing burger. I think I had Sam Adams cold snap and a Guinness,
Mm.
and I should say that both Sunswick and Malachi's, as well as any place I've been, has been very good about checking for the vaccination IDs and all that. So
Yep.
felt very safe, and
Well,
I always try to be. I know you're saying that Coney Island was doing. I don't think the word I'm looking for is aggressively. Actively is the one you used.
yes.
A
Well,
lot of places,
I think I might have said militantly because it was
okay,
like I went to go in to go to the bathroom and it was like, "Can I see your vaccination. I was like, yep, okay, great. Let's take another look. Happy to show literally anytime asked. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Um, but yeah, I honestly, a lot of times I can't tell if someone is going to be that way because I'm just always being very empathetic and thinking
Yep.
I don't want to give them any stress about making me look at it or
Yep.
and so like I always like bring up the app on my phone before I even walk through the door.
Yep. Yep. No, it's good to keep it low stress for the bartenders, because I know that a number of them have expressed to me that they don't like having these interactions. Like, it's not their favorite part of the job, which I get.
Although the weird thing about the one movie theater I went to, they wanted to see my vaccination proof when I bought the ticket and also for the person who tore the ticket,
Oh, okay. Interesting. Double
which
check.
was about 30 seconds apart.
Right. Well, belt and suspenders, right?
So when I was at the other place at AMC, I expected the same thing. I was ready to show it. He said, "Oh yes, well," and the guy said, "Well, thank you for being vaccinated. You don't need to show me, but you need to show it upstairs before the." Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
great. Wonderful. Hey, glad that
And
they're being proactive.
yeah, and it's really interesting the way that some of these places right now are. Well, I mean, we're hearing all about how things are. They're letting some of these regulations expire in New York State, but
Hmm.
that doesn't preempt the ones we have going in New York City.
Right,
And
exactly.
they have not officially said any about any rollback here yet, but knock on whatever that's hopefully forthcoming.
Yeah, no, I mean I mean we I know we're many of the rollbacks have come back. Some of the indoor masking policies have changed in New York City, but
Yeah,
a number of places are still holding on to it. Broadway is holding on to it along with vaccination status until April 30th.
yeah.
You still have to. It's federal that we wear masks on the subway, which honestly is during cold and flu season. I'm like, if it's still socially like cool to do that, I will absolutely wear a mask.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, and certainly it's there. And it's also at on airplanes, of course.
oh yes, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, hold on to that for as long as we need to. I'm used to that, and I still get really angry when I see someone just getting away with not doing it since no one ever enforces it.
Exactly, which is too bad. Although compliance is fair is okay. It's always that one jerk, though,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So, um, well, I did want to follow up on a couple things from last week. The big
Yes.
one being our new friend at Sweet Avenue. Who was
Oh
great
yeah,
to have.
Jared.
Jared, he did ask about how far his delivery service goes,
Yeah,
and I can confirm that they do deliver to my location in the county of Kings.
and that
So
is in downtown Brooklyn.
even further downtown in the neighborhood of Dumbo. So even
Okay.
further away from that. Yes, I'm absolutely within their shipping radius. So well done. Whoever you're using, give them a pat on the back and extra high five from
Excellent.
me, because that's quite the journey for a couple cans of beer to come. But I am grateful for that. So because we wanted to check on that, and I said I would test him out, and well done.
I'm glad he passed with flying colors.
Hmm.
Another interesting thing I saw with regard with this is something that Jared isn't sponsoring necessarily, but
Right.
he's a part of it.
Yep.
There's a ski trip
Ooh.
that Dubco, also known as Destination Unknown Beer Company, in Bay Ridge.
Okay. Yep. That's here
Does that
in the
sound
County of
right?
Kings. Yep. Hmm.
Okay, or maybe Bay Shore. I'm not sure. They're a New York State
Okay.
brewery, and they are sponsoring a ski trip,
Okay.
and the pickup locations are I think at their brewery and at Sweet Avenue, and then somewhere else.
Oh,
So
nice.
for like $180 for the day, you get breakfast on the bus, you get lunch at the ski place, you get a lift ticket, and you get a lot of free Dubco beer.
Nice.
I don't think it pays for equipment rental,
Right.
but if you can make it to Sweet Avenue at 4 a.m. for a day long, that just I actually haven't been skiing since probably the 80s.
Yeah, I am not at all a skier. That said, I will happily sit in a nice warm chalet looking out at people skiing, drinking a beer.
Yeah. The big honestly at this point, I'd like to give it another try because I remember it being a lot of fun. But my biggest concern is how much outerwear do I have to buy?
Right.
How much things that I don't already have in my closet that I need to do to ski properly? Because I do remember I don't think I was ever really great at it, but I remember it being a whole lot of fun. I mean, it certainly wiped out my share when I was doing it, but I just remember like the first time. This is not this is in Ohio, so this isn't
Yeah,
any
yeah.
like real like serious things. But like once I would get on one of the big hills and I'd make it over one of those mogul things and not wipe out. Oh boy, that was exciting.
Oh, sure, I bet.
But if I make it to the top to that like from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill without wiping out, that was kind of exhilarating. Bar was low for me.
See, I in Minnesota we have skiing, sure, but it is like bunny hills. They barely count. And there was Afton Alps, which was like they made a hill and then when it snowed you could go down it. I hated skiing. Like I would
Okay.
cross country ski with my family, but like even that was questionable. And any of this downhill nonsense, like I turned into a snowball more than once. And so I think I'm off the skiing part. That I also don't love the like ski goggles and ski gloves that you have to wear. So I'm
Yeah.
with you on the outerwear. But then again, I would happily drink alcohol while I watch other people make fools of themselves in a nice warm place, maybe with like, a fireplace going.
Yeah.
Be all
Yeah.
about that.
The cross country skiing always perplexed me a little bit because it looks like hard hiking,
Yes, it is.
like
It is.
hiking with more lifting, essentially.
Yes. Well, if you can get on a nice like flat area, then you kind of just are like, if you ever saw those Nordic track machines that were really popular in the 90s, um, you're basically doing that, and you're just kind of like making your feet take you where you need to go, and your arms are doing all the work, and you kind of glide if it's nice and slow. But then the minute you hit anything that is not flat, you're just like, oh gosh, now my feet weigh 6 times what they once did, and I have to pick it up. Oh, unpleasant.
Right. Right. You are having to walk while having heavy boots and skis attached to your feet.
Yes, but if it's flat, it's kind of enjoyable. But everything else
Excellent.
about it is not great. There you go. The Beer Wonders thoughts on cross country skiing. Now the cross country skiing lobby is going to come for us.
Yes, yeah. Well, bring it on. We'll certainly have a healthy, spirited beer fueled debate. Speaking of things that people are debating these days,
Yes.
I have been noticing a lot of pushback against the streaming service Spotify,
Yes.
based on the fact that they're paying Joe Rogan so much money and
Mm-hmm.
how he's just been so active in spreading disinformation. And then the more you dig deep, there's like a lot of racist stuff there as
Yep.
well.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to really start with Neil Young, but then more and more people are on the bandwagon. And I have to admit that you can get the Beer Avengers podcast on Spotify. In
Mm.
fact, you may be listening to it on Spotify right now. And I say that because I can see on our list where people are getting something from. It's a fairly small percentage. I would say of our nearly 2,000 downloads, we've had maybe about 8% of those have been from Spotify.
Okay.
And I'm not really sure how to pull ourselves out of there. So I figured it'd be a little easier is to encourage our few people who are listening to us via Spotify to listen to us some other way, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Yeah.
We don't want you to stop listening to us, but if you can figure out another way, and I want to give you a hand for how to do that. So I actually wrote down all the different places where people have downloaded. This is by no means because usually we just say listen to us wherever you get your podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're saying listen to you wherever you get your podcasts as long as it's not Spotify. And so here are some of the places where people have been downloading us from. Okay,
Okay.
Apple Podcasts, iTunes,
Mm-hmm.
Google Chrome, Safari, mobile,
Okay.
Castbox, Podbean. Actually, that's also who hosts our
Mm-hmm.
it's our hosting site and they've got a really great app. That's actually often how I will. So I downloaded it so I could see our stats, and now usually if I'm looking for a podcast, I'll go to Podbean.
Perfect.
Okay, we have Opera, Bullhorn, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Firefox, Pocket Casts. Something's I don't even know how this is pronounced. It's spelled LAVF. Pocket Cast. Oh, I already said Pocket Cast.
That's how I listen to us, by the way. Pocket Cast. Big fan.
Pocket Cast. There you go. Stitcher, Facebook, Deezer, Audible, Downcast, Podcast Addict, Chromecast. And if you're listening to this from somewhere else, give us a shout out, as the kids probably stopped saying about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Just let us know, and we'll be happy to mention you on the next thing. But these are all alternatives to not. I would love to see that number of percentage of people who are listening to us on Spotify dwindle, so we can say we're making a difference.
Yeah. Well, it is important to start to stand up for what we recognize. I don't have a Spotify membership myself, I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, we're not. Yeah, I should also say that they're not paying us to be listed on there, and we're not paying them to be listed on there.
Yeah.
There's no exchange of money. It's a thing how unless you're like a big high profile podcast, most of us out here we're sort of putting it out in the world and trying to put it on. That's sort of the opening gambit is that you're going around finding out how many different things you get listed on, so people will find you.
Yes. Yes.
And if I were making a new podcast today, I would probably not bother to give Spotify our info, but it's there, and
Yeah. I was
is
gonna
that
say you
enough
can
time
probably
on
tell
this?
we're all fairly pro-vax given the amount of times we've
Oh
congratulated
yeah,
bars for checking our status. So yeah,
yes.
keep your
This isn't
misinformation to
just
yourself.
because we like Neil Young.
Yeah. Well, all that too, but
Yeah. Oh well, one thing first things that are upcoming that you might want to enjoy. I know I mentioned the ski trip, but
Mhm.
also the end of this month. I think it's starting on the 25th of February.
Hmm.
New York City Beer Week is kicking off.
Yes.
I mean, it's
Always
the
a fun
following
time.
week. That's why the kickoff is on a Saturday. And I'm not sure exactly the location. I think it's going to be similar to if you listen to our episode about Blocktoberfest,
Mhm.
similar kind of a deal where you pay a cover fee and you get samples from all the New York City breweries as well as a few guest stars out in Brooklyn. I think look up the New York
Yeah.
City Beer Guild.
I believe just like last year they will be doing it over at the Brooklyn Navy Yards just like
Okay, that's what I thought.
yeah, I
Okay,
believe given that it's happening in the end of February. I believe it's like they have some big beautiful indoor spaces there that are just like massive that can be used as a convention hall. So
yes,
and also, easy to get to by the ferry. I know that's how you and Cider Girl and Huck
Huck
came.
and
Yep,
and Belgian Babe. Yeah,
and Belgian Babe came. Yep,
basically everyone except you,
except for me, but I can walk there
of course.
or bike, which is what I did. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great organization, and you get lots of beer for a pretty good deal. It's win-win. There's really no downside except for maybe a hangover the next day.
Yeah, well, but
Uh,
that can be cared for.
yes, but worth it. I would also say.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
a couple of I guess you'd call this definitely one or two of these things I have are actually before I get to the hookups I also want to
Yes.
mention the Bronx Brewery just
Mhm.
launched a satellite in the East Village.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, that's
Yeah,
exciting.
it's a combination of the sort of a tasting room
Mhm.
with their beer as well as a burger place.
Oh, nice.
This is actually something I wanted to ask you because is Smash Burger a style and not just a place?
So yes, it is. It is both a
How long have we
style
been
and a
using
place.
that?
How have I been using Smash Burger?
I know how long have people been using that to describe a type of burger?
I have only heard about it in the last couple of years. I do
Okay.
follow a couple people who do like weird cooking stuff on the social medias, and
Hmm.
often they will refer to something as being a smash burger, where basically you take a ball of meat and then you smash it on the pan, and so it cooks quickly and it gets crispy on the outside.
Right. It's
Um,
basically, I mean, it's essentially it's what you get. It's a fast food burger, even though you can make it in a better, more delicious way.
yes,
Right.
it's made with better
I mean,
meat, hopefully.
stylistically,
Yes.
McDonald's and Burger King are making those.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if you look at, Five Guys is the perfect
Five Guys
example of
is the
that because
perfect.
they
Yeah, it's one of the.
literally like they have a thing that they smash down. It's even got little ridges on it so that it
Yeah.
doesn't smash all the way, and it keeps a certain consistency. But they literally press all their burgers down.
Or another one, I think it's just in Queens, is Petey's Burger does that
Sure.
same kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest difference between a smash burger and the other burgers are that when you're going on at like a higher level beyond the garbage smash burgers,
Yes.
is that they are cooked so fast they're not cooked to order.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yes. I mean,
But
you can.
it also confused me because the chain Smash Burger existed well before I knew it. I just was
Right.
visiting my parents in Ohio, and they said, "Oh, we're going to go to Smash Burger." I'm like, "Oh, is that a thing?" Okay.
Yeah.
So there is now the fact that it's a style. It's confusing that it is both a proper noun and a small s as well.
Yes. Well, I mean, a
Anyway,
smash
but
burger is great.
that's
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the address is, but that you can visit if
Oh,
you don't want to go if you're in the East Village and you want to get a taste of the Bronx, they've got the Bronx Brewery has their own location there now.
sounds like that might be an important investigation for the Beer Avengers to do. Again,
I
quality
definitely
control. Quality
Quality
control.
control.
That's what we do.
I do have a few mild huck-ups
Uh-oh.
from last week. Actually, the most significant one was I was talking about the Gun Hill Barrel Aged Festival, and I had a
Right.
really good beer there from Lock City.
Okay.
They had a cookies and cream Black is Beautiful. I referred to it as Lock 27, which I realized is a Dayton brewery.
Ah.
It is the name of a brewery, but the one in New Jersey is Lock City, and the one in Dayton is Lock 27. I also, even though Jared mentioned the name of his program, Beer School, more than once, at some point in my brain it became Beer 101.
Oh, oops.
And I referred to it as you're looking for the beer and cheese pairing with the educational component at Sweet Avenue. That's called Beer School.
And I did see that they have one coming up, I believe, it will be on Valentine's Day, I think, which is the day that this thing drops.
Day.
But,
I can't think of a better way to spend Valentine's Day.
Sounds great. Add some chocolate in there.
Yeah. And this is not so much of a hookup as more of an additional information. Last week when we were talking about the fact that Jared's beer just had that thing where it almost just tasted like juice, the fact that he shared it with his son,
Yes.
and he was dismayed how much his son enjoyed the taste of it because his son is well under the drinking age. And I mentioned that we had a similar talk with a beer last year that I couldn't remember which one it was, and it was Even More Hydra from Evil Twin. What helped remind me of this is that is their collaboration with Mortalis from the vast Even More series. And they just came out with the latest version of it. So if you're lucky enough to be one of the few people who went to Evil Twin to get an Even More Hydra, that is the beer that may be indistinguishable from juice.
Oh, well.
And make sure you roll it.
Yes. Oh, yes. If Huck taught us anything about that beer, is that rolling it is very important.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. Well. I think that's all on my agenda. How about you, Beer Wonder?
I mean, I feel like we have covered the important beer venger business that is going on. That said, every once in a while we miss something, and if our beer vengers who listen to us know of something that we've missed, how should they get in touch with us?
Well, the best way to do that would be to email us at thebeervengers@gmail.com. But we're in touch with all of the socials as well. If you direct message us or slide into our DMs, am I saying that right this time?
You are. Well done.
Okay. You can reach out to us at the Beer Vengers. That's at the Beer Vengers at Facebook and Instagram, on Twitter. And yeah, those are put a comment on our YouTube page if you want to. Yeah. I can't promise I'll notice it right away. That's sometimes the problem with I encourage people to do this, but be patient because I don't always notice it right away, especially if I'm slipping back and forth in between my Captain Porter Brown Stout Instagram and the Beer Vengers Instagram. But I will always answer those. We will always answer those. I guess should we give them a little spoiler, or not a spoiler, a little teaser for what we have coming up?
There's a very sacred Beer Vengers activity that has unfortunately not happened since before the pandemic that is making a return this coming weekend, and no, it's not the Super Bowl.
No, I mean, I think some people are excited about that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an injustice in that for me, but not for me, but involving me.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I'm sorry about that.
No. It's what. Well, anyway, I'm delaying your momentum. Keep going.
Oh no, I was setting you up because.
Oh, you were setting me up. Okay, yes. Yeah, no, we're. I'm having a 10 or 12 beer vengers over to my place for a stout tasting. I've curated a list of 56 beers so far. I still have 2 days if I want to add to that list, and I promised Cider Girl I'm going to find some alternatives for her as well.
Yes.
In fact, shortly after we're here, I have to go pick up a loaf of sourdough bread from the Phoenix Bakery.
Oh, lovely!
And I'll immediately put that in the freezer so it'll be nice and fresh.
Nice.
I expect to have some cheeses from the Beer and Cheese Collective. I know you said you might be bringing some cheeses as well.
Yes.
And it is the day before the Superb Owl.
No, Super Bowl, right? Like you eat a lot of cereal out of it, right? That's how this works.
I mean, that sounds fun too.
Okay.
But no, the injustice is that Nutpool. I mean, say what you will.
Say what you will about Nutpool.
Say what you will about Nutpool. He's a giant fan of one team from his hometown.
Yes.
And that team was vying for a slot from a team from my hometown.
Oh.
And the team from my hometown won. And the reason this is such a great injustice is because I won't be watching.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
care if they won. Nutpool cared. So this is how cruel the universe is.
I know. It's hard to be Nutpool.
To
It really
reward
is.
me for something that I don't consider as a reward.
Yeah. Well, Nutpool, we send our condolences.
Yes. We're thinking of you, and we'll we're not going to pour one out for you because you're still alive. So come
Exactly.
enjoy the stout with us, and
Right.
we'll have you on real
Just
soon.
for those listening, we won't be drinking all 50. Some of them.
No.
We
That's
usually get
is,
through-
from
we
what
usually
we'll
get
be
through around-
selecting.
Right. Usually you get through about 20 though, at least.
Yeah. It sounds about right. We will be posting a picture of the kill wall to be sure.
Of course. So, oh well, you know what? I as I'm looking out into the distance, I do see a wandering Huck coming towards us. I wonder if he's just making his way back from the West Coast to get ready for the for our adventures this weekend. But I'm wondering if Huck might be willing to play us out.
Oh yeah, he's nodding his head. All right, thanks
Okay.
everyone for listening. It's great having you, and we'll see you next time on the Beer Vengers, the podcast.
With the beer Vengers, beer Vengers, beer Vengers.
We're the Beer Avengers.